Very quick ban on the Varus on blue side against Ruler.
Off to a good start.
And it's just Ruler losing his Ultra Comfort in the Varus. I guess we shouldn't be surprised there. Aiming versus Ruler is a fun one. Aiming was around the professional scene around the same time that Ruler was in Challenger back in spring of last year, but too young to play. I know the Korean casters were coming up to us and gossiping about the fact that, of course, Aiming was born in the year 2000. He's a millennium baby, so one of our younger players here. And Keen also, I believe, 1999, so also some very youthful players. And with a new bot laner comes bot lane bans on the blue side. The Xayah Rakan should be no surprise. Ruler and Core JJ famously holding 2 spots in the top 10 of Challenger as only duo queue. The Xayah Rakan a power pick, and they're just trying to dispatch with all the champions that KSV have defaulted to. That means that a lot of strong meta picks are left available.
Yeah, definitely true. Going to take out the Skarner away from Spirit. We've been seeing a lot of that, but you talk about big meta picks. Kalista left available, and they first pick it for their support AD carry.
But remember, guys, we're still on patch 8.3. We don't have the 8.4 bounty yet. That means Zoe is at full power and is left available with Galio, one of the strongest laners into it, being banned away. So it's actually relevant that they went for comfort on Aiming over everything else. KSV have experimented with the Zoe for a long time, went on a 5-match winning streak, but have lost 3 in a row on the Zoe and clearly want to prioritize crown on other champions. So we'll go into the Rise. They know very well it could be into the Zoe matchup, but a pretty comfortable one. You can't itemize so cleanly into early magic resist as the Rise.
That might be a bit of a roadblock there for Afreeca if they were thinking about picking it up. Spirit going on something normal, not something that we can say every time we see Afreeca in the booth. He's just going to be playing that very standard Jarvan in the jungle.
I mean, a week ago he was on the Poppy, so we know that anything's possible with Spirit. Already played 12 unique champions, but like you say, on the pathing jungler this time. No Nidalee either to start boar hunting. And speaking of normal, we're going to go with Zoe falling through picks and bans. It's a phenomenon that can happen when a champion is so heavily changed and the patch changes before it changes in competitive play, where your recent practice onto Zoe in solo queue is going to be pretty useless with how much wave clear was changed and her mechanics were tinkered with. So no Zoe falls through picks and bans. And here's an NALCS favorite that has been a rarity. The only player we have in the LCK that actually plays a lot of Tristana is, in fact, Ruler.
Yeah, I mean, they ban out some of his other picks. The Xayah, no Xayah Rakan this time. The Varus, of course, another big comfort, but Tristana's left available. Didn't want to have other AD carries get banned, such as Triss, so they go with that one at the end. So we're going to go into the second ban phase here. Camille taken away from Keen in the top lane, and the Gnar taken away from QV.
Yeah, pinching support and top lane is the likely bans we will see. A lot of the first round's gone, given that Gangplank, was a first round ban for KSV. That was a weird way to say ban, but whatever, let's go with it.
First round bound.
Hey, I can put on an accent if I want. Tucson won't be playing the Thresh, though. That's been denied away. So kind of struggling between OPs. It does feel like we're going to see some different stuff, hopefully, in the top side. Could just be tanks, though. Sion is still available for both of them to visit.
Now, when it comes to that Kled, when are we going to see Kled come back on the meta?
That is the dream. I was going to point out that with a lot of the supports taken away, Tahm Kench and Braum are the big ones available, and Core JJ is a known Braum picker. That's right.
Yeah.
Not a dirty Braum picker, but a known Braum picker.
They're asking, because of Spo TV, can we cast the last train? The answer is probably, as Spo TV pretty famous for having quicker games here in Korea compared to
Tucson, pretty famous for the Alistair that was left open. We've had kind of a weird whirlwind of Alistair bans against every team, not just, say, Ignar from BBQ. But this time, Alistair left open the Kalistar lane. A lot of engage for Afreeca Freecs, 4 champions. We really can get up close and personal. Now we're waiting for the blind pick top laner. The safest is going to be the Sion. Keen tried this 2 times in their last series. Both of them were losses, but we'll give them lane priority in basically every lane. Looking to see what KSV wants, and we were hoping, we were being optimistic, but we got this ultra tank matchup, Valdez. One for the ages.
It's hard to be optimistic in this meta of top laners. Potato versus potato, and, well, We saw Kyuve's face too. It was kind of that disappointed nod with a small smirk on his face. Like, yeah, I guess we're just going to play Ornn versus Sion here.
I mean, he was tasked with Engage. They have no other Engage other than the Sejuani ultimate that will be eaten by the Sion realistically in most true 5v5s. So, ranged Engage for Kyuve. Trade's going to be very even. We won't have to watch the top side. We can be hyped about the teleport plays, but not about the 1v1. For Afreeca, I'm excited to see Kuro on the Taliyah. We had a real renaissance in Taliyah play in week 5 of the LCK. A lot of great play around structures. We even had some team fight Taliyah from BDD that was PogChamp and then some. So hope springs eternal every time we see the Taliyah, and the fact that it can be used in so many different ways. The build may stay the same, but the playstyle changes. Springs some optimism for this game.
Yeah, definitely a bunch of eyes on our young player, the millennial baby here in Aiming, joining the lineup once again. The only sub to make it through here on this Afreeca Freecs lineup that has 10 people in total. But he makes it through a second time. He's playing Kalista, not the easiest champion to play. Definitely, I'm going to be looking at that bottom lane to see how he does up against Ruler and Core JJ here.
Yeah, Ruler and Core JJ on a powerful duo themselves. A lot of late game damage from the Tristana, but low damage comp in general for the side of KSV. They're all about the rotations. They're all about Ryze in a side lane. He may not have the stopwatch anymore. Deficio is sad, but we are happy that hopefully we can load in for what is going to be 40 best of threes in the next month. March is going to be epic.
I thought you meant 40 minutes of best of threes.
It could certainly be that too.
Seeing this composition and seeing KSV definitely is a possibility. Let's see if Afreeca wants to shake things up going into game number 1. She was going in on that chant. Making it count here.
Someone had to commit in this game of farm champions everywhere.
Yeah.
I just noticed that Ruler used the same Guerrilla Warfare Tristana chroma that I use. I know that's a very random thing to say, but when you see Ruler, you'll notice the black chroma for that particular skin.
Yeah.
Are you a chroma person? Do you really deck yourselves out?
Yeah, I like the chromas. But as we mentioned on the last broadcast, I've been playing nothing but Taliyah.
No chromas.
Unfortunately,
there?
she doesn't have any chromas. So
right, please, huh?
Just one skin as well. Sadness abound.
Well, one ward was used to try to spot Keen, and they did clear vision on the top side. See Taliyah going very aggressively here, Keen and Kuro. Kind of makes us harken back to previous metas. The last time Sion was in the meta post-rework, he would always steal the enemy red buff, die to it, and then just teleport top side with the buff. Still possible, but a little bit too gimmicky. Core JJ wants to stop aiming from getting to lanes. This is another thing we've seen a couple of times recently.
Nice read here from Keen. Gets in the brush and delays Kyuve from getting to lane 2.
So we've had a couple of different metas when it comes to racing to bot lane. At Worlds, it would be just every bot lane would have to race to lane to get to the brush, to try to get to the forward brush, to try to control the enemy wave as it arrived. Here we just have KSV rush to lane and Core JJ just with the Winter's Bite to slow down aiming, getting to lanes. It's all about wave control, getting level 2 advantage on the bot side.
We have the match records down on the bottom. Obviously, these teams have played a lot against each other. Samsung beating them in the 2017 Worlds qualifier and eventually winning Worlds is a pretty nice stat to notice that it was 3-2 in that best of 5. Could have gone the other way.
Yeah, it was a really close one between Afreeca and KSV. It was a lot of innovation. I think the Lulu was brought out by Spirit during the course of that series, but weren't able to close it out. That was just after the Ardent meta had fully settled in Korea, where we're seeing Ardent Sensor rush on both sides. Thankfully, a thing of the past, but like you say, one of those games goes a different way, and suddenly we would have had a different world champion. So KSV obviously want to try to avoid the regional qualifier this year. Winning a split would go a long way to doing that.
Yeah, we'll see if they can actually do that. Kyuve very smartly here actually is coming in and spotting Spirit. Not sure if he saw him over a ward because he flag and dragged over into the tri-brush. I didn't see a ward there earlier, so maybe just some communication on the side of KSV saying, hey, Spirit could be here doing my Krugs.
And rune pages also have one of these conditional statements, because when you are against Tucson, you kind of automatically assume that he's going to be running Unsealed Spellbook, and you go for a counter Unsealed Spellbook. This time Tucson actually has Aftershock, so no ability to anticipate that. You have to guess, really, what rune set is being taken. But this time Tucson playing for lane, rather than his famous Teleport Glacial Fissure plays that we've seen when he's running the Braum.
Yeah, also got Scion with the
Glacial Augment.
Yeah, so he definitely can slow down QV a bit. Probably won't change the way that the trades go, but a man can be hopeful.
I think they'll be more one-sided for QV. With W, the Bellows Breath, with doing maximum HP damage and giving a shield, you kind of win every tank matchup, and you have Grasp to also win melee matchups. So when it comes to Scion, winning is kind of a sliding scale. Forcing him to use his shield and not actually push the lane with it is kind of the most kind of winning you're going to do, with how much sustain that Biscuiteer and Corrupting Potion Scion is going to have. But the Glacial Augment in teamfights will once again define his role as basically peeling. You know, Scion, as the game goes on, eventually runs out of any relevant damage, so it is all about the CC, and having an slow on the auto attack is going to give him another role to try to peel for, you'd imagine, the Kalista when the fights roll around.
We haven't seen too much jungler presence so far around any of the lanes. Just trying to farm up as much as possible. Looks like Ambition is one camp ahead, as Spirit's doing his, but might have a bit of action. Not here, as probably just going to be a close trade. Yeah.
Observer was baited by the blinking health bars, but we know the sliding scales of blinking.
Sliding scales of blinking. Yeah, Keen's totally fine. QV going to go back and TP back in the lane. And Ambition actually spotted Spirit doing the Raptors, so.
If you guys are wondering about the skill order, when you go Glacial Augment, you can see that Khan and now Keen have shown us that you smacks Q, the Decimating Smash. QV does have the ability to interrupt. If you're quick enough on the Q, when it pops up, it does actually interrupt the Decimating Smash, but it is Q max into W we've seen from the science. The W max second is common on both the Comet and the Glacial Augment builds. Comet is going to be the role of the Slayer max. Only 1 point in E does mean you don't have the same pushing capability as the wave comes, but of course, Decimating Smash is still good for pushing, and you get the same Armor Shred on both. The Armor Shred doesn't scale with level, so you can see there is an argument for going Q max instead.
But as things are, it's not going to make too much of a difference in the lane, as these two members getting their tanky items. Catalyst finished here for Keen. We'll see if he tries to make a play towards mid. I could definitely see that happening, maybe after Spirit hits level 6. Try to collapse upon Crown here.
Yeah, Afreeca largely waiting for their level 6s themselves, as now Talia has the weave as well. Map plays very possible with the mobility of basically everyone on the map bar Scion. Ambition going to face check.
You were talking about it, and Weaver's Wall. It is up against the Sejuani, but they could try to make this 2v2 work and push Ambition out. Kuro is going to be the first to rotate over.
Yeah, they got the early shove on the Talia. Smite goes down, Spirit will steal away the red. So playing around level 6, being pinged first. Playing around having a true global and also the rock surfing to get there. Nice play around pressure by Afreeca. And so far, because they're not going to be hurried, when you see Ambition in the lineup, you know this is going to be a pretty slow game pace if you're Afreeca Freecs. They're allowing themselves to be played into form, but also make the smart macro decisions that were common in their 10-match winning streak, but have not been common in their last 2 games on the Rift.
So we haven't really had too much action here in this one, Papa Smithy. The Farm Fest, we saw it actually on Sunday. We basically just decided it was MVP versus BBQ, definitely a different tier of matchup, but it was nice to take some time and just talk about other things. I'm still waiting for something to happen in this game.
We should talk a bit about expectations before we go into the silly streets, about how these comps will face in a true 5v5 later. Nice buffering of the rocket jump there by Ruler. As the game goes on, it's actually pretty similar identities to mid laners that are a little bit more about utility, the roam potential from the Realm Warp, and of course Talia in the late game having most of her damage blocked by super tanks, and there's so many on the Rift that it's likely to happen. hold the point, though, as Sejuani's here. His ambition.
Yeah, looking for that ultimate onto aiming. Nice positioning by Tushin, trying to block as much as possible, but it's just not enough to get out of the way. It's going to be first blood, given over to Ruler in the bottom lane.
That was really nice laning, like you say, by Tushin. Put himself in a position to answer everything, but Ambition never even needed to throw out the Glacial Prison. Was able to hold on to it, can return to the lane for a second gank. Everything down on aiming, and now KSV making their own play, this time around the enemy red buff.
Looking for the knockback, not going to happen. Smite coming in from Ambition. Spirit not even trying to get in there, knowing it was 2v3.
Need a replay to see if Aiming, thought of Kramer, but Aiming could have played that any differently. Does go down and use all summoners. The Fate's Call wasted right at the end. It's very unfortunate for the side of Afreeca, given that we were just kind of outlining that the comps are pretty similar as the game goes on. A snowball game is expected. Gonna catch the replay. They don't know about Ambition yet. Tushin does everything he can, but it's rushed down. Honestly, nothing they could do. At the end of the day, probably should have just held on to the ultimate there. The re-engage with such a low health bar wasn't gonna actually interrupt any damage on the side of KSV. So Fate's Call wasted, and after the nerfs, the cooldown at level 1 is a lot longer than it was before.
Yeah, it was just way too much damage coming out from the explosions of Ruler on the Tristana, and of course the built-up passive from, or rather the built-up E from Ambition. So they get enough damage, they stun him down, and well, they just didn't have vision. There was a control ward in the brush, and yeah, you were mentioning it. No flash, no heal on aiming right now. And here they go, the flash on in. He misses his Q, and the ultimate is blocked here, actually, by Tushin, but Ruler, he's looking for the kill. Is he going to jump on in? He ults, but it's not enough. It's too early, and he cannot get the kills. Now Spirit coming in, and we got Talia from the mid lane, going to lay down a wall. Got stuns coming in onto Spirit, and he's going to try to jump in a desperation attempt, but it just does not work out, and he gives his life.
He certainly does. KSV able once again to pick up the kill. Aiming one auto attack away from going down after the flash there. Couldn't buffer another auto, could Ruler. Crowd had to flash over the Weaver's Wall, so another summoner invested. But a nice turn from KSV, trying to find bot lane leads around the sub-80 carry in Aiming.
It's been working out so far, and we were joking about this top lane, but Keen is actually doing a fantastic job of shutting down Cuvée so far, winning a lot in terms of CS. About 20 so far. Cuvé's
laning phases have been definitely down on past. Usually his safety would mean some sort of a CS lead, maybe 5 CS down, but neither of the top laners could be here. They both just teleported to lane. Ambition goes for the ultimate, and once again Tushin in a hero position to try to answer early kills. Ruler couldn't get that last auto attack to kill off the Talia. The Callisto. You baited into thinking that this is going to be Spirit going for the dunk, but they can turn onto him easily. They have the teleport. The health bars are still high. Spirit gives up his life now, and because of this loss of pressure bot lane, other people are being baited into the lane and losing their lives, and the problems from bot lane are being generalized across the map.
Yeah, definitely a sore spot so far for Afreeca, trying to make something work, but not really happening. Aiming's laning phase was good, but now he's just being bullied in the bottom lane, unfortunately.
First purchase was the recurve bow as well. It's another reason you can attack the lane. Doesn't have the sustain of the much more standard Bilgewater Cutlass. It's an attempt at some harass damage, you'd say.
Yeah, stun going down onto Ruler in the back, and they at least push the duo out of the lane here.
Guys at home are wondering why now for Aiming. If you look at the solo queue, that is rank 15 in Challenger. So again, we do theorize that it is going to be reward for hard work. Has been burning the midnight oil, trying to get himself a starting position here. Aiming was previously with Lava from Rox Tigers, the mid laner for Rox Tigers, the sub-support AD carry duo for SK Telecom T1. Taehoon was his name then, renamed to Lava, moved to mid lane for the Rox Tigers. Aiming always has been the AD carry role, was too young to play when he was a trainee on SKT. Joined the squad this year for Afreeca. Only his second game, but still no clear reason to prefer him over Kramer, at least in our limited observation of him on the Rift.
Yeah, and in the games we watched where Afreeca was losing, it wasn't necessarily Kramer's fault either, so definitely does seem like what you're talking about, just a reward for hard work. We'll see if it does pay off, as we've seen many times before. Rookies, even though he's not necessarily a true rookie, but rookies coming in and getting overwhelmed on the LCK stage, not really playing as well as they do in solo queue. It's a very different plane to play on, so we'll see how he can do a little bit later on.
Feels like the 80 carries are both going to have to work in overload to make these team comps work. Brown will do some damage, of course, as the game goes on to the front line, and Talia will also, again, be largely doing damage to the front line. But pushing damage to the back line for Kallista's always been a struggle. Tristana kind of reigns supreme, and that's why she's so popular in other regions. So it feels like Tristana is primed in the late game to be the true carry of this game. However, on the side of Afreeca, the thing they do have is the ability to get to the backline easier. Alistair with the Fate's Call and the Jarvan both have backline access. So really, you throw all the balls up in the air, you know, do some sort of a juggle, and it ends up slight advantage to KSV because Tristana can take over this game and is doing well in the laning phase. But largely, the takeaway should be very even game comp-wise, and so far the gold lead only 1,000 to the side of KSV.
I like what Spirit did there. I don't know if it was a read on Ambition going in to try to steal the red buff once again, but there was so much vision deny in the red buff side of Afreeca by KSV that he was just like, well, I don't really want to go in there. I'm not going to clean that out. Let me go for the Rift Herald instead. So nice objective picked up. He is still a full level behind Ambition. You'll see he doesn't have too much XP, but that's kind of the Ambition special. He's going to be ahead of you. He's going to be farming up, and so far he's doing pretty well on that.
He's been farming, and he also got success when he ganked bot lane a couple of times. So feast or famine nature of the jungle without as much catch-up experience does put it that way. If you wonder why KSV is controlling red side so strongly against the side of Afreeca, well, on a simple level, it lets Ambition chain gank bot lane and get that lane ahead, but also, if you follow the logic, Kura's on the Talia. Getting double control ward lead around your bot side is how Talia can roam most safely and most unbeknownst to KSV to the bot side. So whenever they have vision control around the enemy red side, it's even more difficult for Talia to assist, and thus everything is set up for Ruler and Core JJ to carry this game.
Yeah, it definitely is. You notice that they have 3 control wards now, but Kuro is going to be spotted this time. And they even have Ambition nearby, who actually just runs straight into Kuro. The wall comes down, but there's a fight in the brush here. In comes Crown now, but he's going to be dunked. Stopwatch coming in. Tushin, they're going to try to stun him down. Saya with the big stun, and they do get him. 5 members of Afreeca grouping up, and he's going for the charge as well. Keen once more. He wants to bite off as much as possible. A flash on in from Tushin. He's going to get Core JJ out of position. That's going to be 2 kills now for Afreeca.
That was really smartly fought by Afreeca. You'll notice Ruler couldn't be involved because the Rift Herald was summoned, went down the lane. Ruler was trying to answer that. They should get the turret here anyway. It's falling very, very low, but Afreeca 2 kills, a turret. This time bot lane is to the profit of Afreeca Freecs.
Wow, what a crazy map play by Afreeca to get everybody down there. The Rift Herald in position. Now they move to mid with the pushing lane and get that turret low as well. In the span of about a minute and a half, all of a sudden Afreeca running away with this early game.
Yeah, you rewind. I was talking about the vision because at the time when I started the point, Afreeca didn't have vision bot line. They move it there. There's a vision advantage for Ambition as the Weaver's Wall goes down, but they end up behind the play because Spirit was slightly off screen, channeling the Rift Herald. Then they turn, Crown is exposed, teleported onto a ward. He's taken down. Nothing he can do in the front line after he came in. And then KSV have to respect Ruler onto the Rift Herald. There's no ability for him to collapse, so they're always going to outnumber. That's why this re-engage by Afreeca, first by Tucson, then by Keen, is so smart, because there's a huge cost to Ruler rotating at any point. He never moves, and thus leads and objectives stack up for the side of Afreeca.
And another reason we can point to as to why Sion is seeing a lot more play. Just, he has a really good laning phase, but then once you get him into a team fight, all of that CC and then the charge afterwards to re-engage is just really annoying to deal with. Keen playing a good game so far on this Sion.
Definitely a champion who's laning phase strength into just the most obnoxious follow with the Glacial Augment. Can't help but be amused by. Well, it just nopes Tucson away with the blasting plant there.
Okay, well, looks like we're going to have another engage as Ambition is coming over. And they are going to engage here onto Tushin, but the Fate Skull comes through and the re-engage from Afreeca. They're trying to kill Ambition, and they will get him down. Just one kill, and that was an engage by KSV that went awry.
And if you add everything together, surely the man of the map so far has been Tucson. The amount of ults he's eaten from Ambition, from smart positioning, the re-engage and engage timings have been super on point. Keen's going to taxi in this minion wave, looking to take a second turret of the game. Our Afreeca Freecs and KSV are a step behind the play after running the play for the first 10 minutes.
They're looking to engage now onto Keen here. They get the knock up onto Kuro, but he has a huge front line in both Spirit and Keen. Notice the decimating smash and the seismic shove, still getting everybody into position, but the flash forward from Ruler is not going to be enough, and he almost gets his team in trouble. Juve getting incredibly low. Thankfully for KSV, he gets out of there.
Yeah, Ruler's aggressive flashes have not been working. So easy for Sion to bait aggressive plays. He's so insanely tanky. He walks away. Second aggressive summoner from Ruler doesn't get a lead. They're going to get top lane turret for this. So we already know that mid lane is super low. Top and bot lane are down, with both drafts being largely about the early to mid game and then AD carry centric as it goes on. When things are this similar, the fact that there's a 3,000 gold lead for Afreeca serves very well as we crest the mid game.
Yeah, you look at the score of Ruler, definitely looks good after their success in the bottom lane, but as a team, and some of the engages, it hasn't been working out, so we'll see if they can turn it around. The first Drake here is going to be the Cloud Drake to Afreeca.
And I'm smirking because I saw an Aegis in the items for Keen, and I thought, is it going to be the locket? But there was a cloth armor, and he turns it into a very early banner of command. This is another great thing they can do. So we talked about how Afreeca got their first advantage, summoning the Rift Herald and then forcing Ruler to react to it. Now they summon a bannered up ranged minion here, a cannon minion in the bot side, and Bellow's Breath doesn't clear it because it's immune to magic damage, and QV has to waste so much time trying to answer it. His teleport is likely to be second, or they're going to have a pushing wave always against them in the lane that Sion and Ornn are occupying. So this is another way to influence the map around what is, on paper, a very similar tank v tank match.
As you mentioned, incredibly obnoxious. He can keep QV down in the bottom lane. I'd love to get a look at that because he used it. We could just see exactly how bad Ornn is at getting that down. But Keen's going to have the first rotation coming into mid here. Crown's not even here. He's up in the top lane doing some kind of 1-3-1. But they will lose their mid tier 1. Another objective and more gold goes to Afreeca.
Yeah, so far we've seen a lot of Sion, but not really reasons to pick him. A lot of teams that have carry players like Khan jumping on Sion, you're like, okay, it's definitely a good pick in solo queue. The win rate can't be denied. But teams actually playing around what Sion provides haven't really seen that, right? They've kind of been trivialized because there's been so little action in the mid game. In the mid game, he is obnoxious, unkillable, and his base damages will still register before lifesteal and tanky items are there. And this is another way to use him, just like the Rift Herald. Ensure that whether you're teleporting at the same time as your enemy or not, have the ability to buff up a minion, always have a pushing lane, and have something working against them, whatever the result of the 5v5 on the other side of the map.
Well, he did not have his banner of command cooldown ready to go just yet, so he goes back home, buys a Giant's Belt, returns down to the bot lane, becomes even more unkillable. So far, based on what we've seen, QV hasn't really been making a huge impact with the Ornn in the team fights compared to the Sion. Really been enjoying this pick so far.
I haven't seen the huge use of the Ornn ultimate yet.
Yeah.
The core of the Forge God has largely been an afterthought, even though they have Braum on their team to deny there being really clean support to answer that range initiation. KSV trying to control the Baron area. Usually in these spots, KSV, as we well know, kind of just fall back, try to lose the minimum when they fall behind. That's always been their play style. But Sion's rotated. You can see already, every time you see the Banner of Command on cooldown, it means that Sion pushed one wave, put Banner on a tank, and then started to roam with his team. So wants to be there first.
This is what I wanted to see.
It is so obnoxious. One of the strengths of Orin is wave clear and push, and he cannot push against the Sion Banner of Command minion.
Well, in the future, I know a lot of people have been talking about this, but with the Baron changes as well, once you begin to Baron buff those minions, those kind of minions, and also put Banner of Command on them, they get even stronger, even more obnoxious. No doubt we'll be seeing more of this in the future.
If you're picking up, Sion will hold the point.
Okay, they're going to engage and use a lot here onto KSV, the Cataclysm coming through, but they get the flash for it, so it's definitely worth it in terms of trading the ult for the Summoner.
I want some people at home, if we have a moment, to talk about kind of solo queue things. If you pick up Sion, a lot of people are because his win rate is so high. I think what you're seeing here on a simple level as, okay, we're fighting.
Okay, we got Call of the Forge God here, and, well, trading ults for flashes is going to be the name of the game between Spirit and KSV.
But what you're seeing from Keen is what you should take away from this is to play Sion and actually win with the pick in solo queue, you need to be proactive. You just stay in lane, safe farming. There is the chance that the game, you just get outscaled in terms of the 5v5 as the game goes on. If you rotate first, if you're always on the roam, which is what Banner of Command on the minion allows the Sion to do here, your early base damage, your early grouping is super powerful. And Keen's read is, if I group first, I can actually use my kit to the advantage, rather than if you teleport second as a Sion and your ult gets blocked by a tank, you don't really do much in a team fight. It's a very different reward. So on the front foot with Sion is really what I want to see from more teams and what you guys should take away for solo queue play as well.
Certainly is obnoxious. He uses it again down on the bottom side. You haven't really seen a play towards the Baron just yet. Looks like it's still a little bit early. Of course, the one Cloud Drake doesn't help him out with that. This is just, I mean, he can't do much. And here's the engage. We got a 4-on-4, but Sion is coming on in. Talia's still up on the top side. They're saying, you can fight us 5v4 if you want and wait for that TP, but we are going to take the proactive play and try to force you into these team fights that you don't want to fight.
It's so hard for them to be proactive unless they commit a teleport, Valdez, and then the teleport's down, Sion returns, and you got a double headache. So KSV ultra frustrated. No itemization he can really go apart from his own visit to the Banner of Command, or maybe a Zarot portal to try to circumvent the pushing that's going to happen from those Banner of Command minions. And Decimating Smash does physical damage, so there is, of course, more threat from the Sion on a counter Banner of Command minion. That's right, we're talking about counter Banner of Command minions.
But I think in 8.4, there's definitely a chance.
Yeah, it's true. It's going to be a big favorite there. But let's notice that there's been a lot of action. We've been hyped about the Banner of Command, but nothing's actually been forced. A flash here or there. Really all we can talk about is KSV's Summoner is still down in exchange for Spirits. A lot of Baron threat from the side of Afreeca. Kalista, Ren secure, and the Weaver's Wall to force flashes to even check it is something that they want to set up here. But for now, KSV predictably have been very strong on the defense around Baron. So right now, if you look at the minimap, Baron vision is secured by KSV, and the mirror is largely just for river control for the side of Afreeca.
We have the second Cloud Drake here. Generally, when you get one Cloud Drake, you're like, oh, I wish it was something else. Let's wait until something else spawns. But they're clearing all the vision in this bottom river out and not going for the Cloud Drake, in fact. Not wanting to go for a double. I was going to say that double Cloud Drake is double the fun, but actually it begins to get pretty good once you begin to stack those Cloud Drakes.
I think Afreeca should realize about their comp is that their siege, unless it's an all-in siege with the Weave as well, it's very poor. Kalista doesn't really want to walk up. There's not really a lot of safety in trying to take turrets with just Kalista. And Talia wants to be playing to the side, looking for a Weave as well. So siege not strong, but objective taking is strong. So that's why investing most of their time actually finding a way to push up the vision, actually finding a way to clear all the control wards on the red side is the best way for Afreeca to blow open the game. Because right now, it's just trading farm on both sides. KSV with 3,000 gold behind 7 minutes ago. There's still 3,000 gold behind, and the Justana is going to hit 3 items very soon. And 3-item Justana needs no introduction.
Yeah. Well, they're engaging here onto Tushin, who actually does blow his ult here. Nice respect shown. Nobody really wants to make a mistake in this game. You mentioned how the gold lead and basically the situation in the game hasn't changed in the past 5-7 minutes. So as long as nobody makes a mistake, dies for no reason, Afreeca should be feeling pretty good about this one.
And that 3-item Tristana is online already. So 28 minutes into the game. Rapid fire, static shift, standard Tristana build. From there, would love to go into Bloodthirster, but needs a way to actually have threat onto the front line from Afreeca. So we'll probably have to be working towards something like the Lord Dominic's Regard very soon. And we're going to watch this matchup for a little bit.
I mean, we might as well. It's pretty fun to see a new item being used. It's obviously not a new item, but it feels like it's a new item with how little we see the Banner of Command.
Wondering why we have this kind of truce, it feels like, in terms of a lack of action in the game. You have two mages that work very well in side lanes, the Ryze and the Taliyah, so they've been top side. Two tanks in the bot side with no threat on each other, and just wave clear in the mid lane. It suits KSV more because they have the Tristana, who I feel like will actually really bring them a lot in team fights very soon. But for now, at least, being very passive, and Afreeca, you can tell, itching to start a fight.
Yeah, they're trying to force this here on a Core JJ. There's the Weaver's Wall, but it brings 3 members on the side. But look at Ruler, you were talking about this, and now aiming getting low. Spirit trying to disengage with all his might, and everybody on Afreeca in a bit of a forced engage, trying to get out of there, rather. They do blow the flash here on Ruler, but higher health totals on the side of KSV so far.
Kane was able to interrupt the Ornn ultimate by QV. So ult for ult trade there. Afreeca re-engage, this time onto QV.
He doesn't really have anywhere to go, and flash for flash, and 5 members trying to get in there, but a fail engage from Tushin, but there's the seismic shove, getting crowded position. Core JJ getting low too. They're trying to get in there. Look at aiming going forward with Kuro. They get the 1 kill onto the big carry of Crowd, and now they're going to begin pushing.
We said they had greater backline threat. They had more engage. That's why Afreeca just went for it. They realized that flashing in, looking for kills now was the only way they were going to actually force something after a super passive last 5 minutes. They're straight onto the Marin. Weaver's Wall not available, but Ambition here for the Smite Steal.
Feels a bit scary, especially with that full health Ruler with the red buff coming in, but they really want to make this Ren work for them. Let's see if they actually can. Ruler trying to get in there, but respect shown from KSV. Not going to try to go for another Weaver's Wall here, but on the wrong side is Kuro, gets knocked over. QV getting low, but not sure they can get this one in. The Ornn ultimate should at least get Tushin. And a double kill going over to Ruler on the chase, but it looks like just 3 members of Afreeca going to run away with the Baron buff.
Yeah, Ambition's oldest back up. That's how long this fight has been. Some of the little mechanical plays there for Afreeca, letting them down, mean that 2 kills do go back the way of KSV as Kuro goes for the ride of his life, and that thrill ride costs him his life. KSV going to counter push. They're going to take at least 1 turret in the mid lane. This was the right move by Afreeca overall. It was the right time to try to pull the trigger. They do get the Baron. You're going to see a replay of the Baron play. Smite very, very early. Aiming doesn't take a risk, doesn't actually rend at 1,500, gets to around 1,000, and then the rend comes out. Kuro, he's a bit of a thrill seeker on the Taliyah. We mentioned that we wanted to see more. Maybe a little bit of less of that, Kuro.
Yeah. Tone it down, just a tad. Yeah, Tushin trying to be the hero that he usually is, but ends up just giving another kill to Ruler. You were talking about accelerating that build for the Tristana. She's now sitting at 3-0-1 and getting there very, very fast.
And our team fights really are going to be neck and neck. And the reason why I say that is, we mentioned earlier, Jarvan, Alistar with Fate's Call, both of them can get onto the Tristana. Tristana can disengage both of them. But what will that mean for damage output in the meantime? Because there isn't the same backline access onto the side of Afreeca. So while Kalista is going to be outclassed over an even 5v5, if both of them are free autoing, Afreeca has more ways to stop the Tristana free autoing on their front line. So the team fight's going to be very swingy. If you see Tristana just free autoing the entire fight, if you see no ability to gap close from Tushin onto the Tristana, KSV win 9 out of 10 times. If they can shut down the Tristana or at least waste her time as Kalista gets the Ren stacks into the enemy front line, that should be an Afreeca teamfight win.
Yeah. You notice that even after the Baron take, KSV catching up in the gold score, just about 1,500 behind in terms of that number. You have the push coming up into the top side. They're looking for this top tier 2 with the Baron buff, so that gold lead may increase just
That's a big number right there. 20,000 damage, just to the 8,000 from aiming. But this is what Afreeca can do. Put down the Weaver's Wall, take a free objective. Nothing much happening on the bot side.
Yeah.
The easy objectives are starting to go down. Only 2 more inner turrets to be taken for Afreeca.
Tushin blows his ult again, just going around the right side of this red buff. But you were mentioning the siege. Really, the best part of their siege is that Weaver's Wall, so I don't mind them just playing it passively and taking 1 turret by 1 turret without fully engaging with the Weaver's Wall. It's just not the easiest thing to pull off, especially because KSV does have a decent amount of gauge in their composition.
But then you say, okay, how are they getting the 1 objective they got? With the Baron buff, they need the Weaver's Wall as well, and they take 1 turret. Are we even sure with just the Weaver's Wall, do they take the other 2 inner turrets? Without the Baron buff, hard to say. So the fact that they kind of got the minimum, they didn't botch it completely, but they kind of got the minimum after a couple of deaths after they claimed the Baron, means the pace of the game stays slow, even though the Scion wants to be rotating early. The Scion has the earlier power spike. Those things aren't actually adding the oomph for Afreeca to realistically break the pace.
Yeah, and about using that Weaver's Wall, it is easier to get the angle on the top turret compared to the middle turret. It's also a lot safer to go for a turret like that instead of going into the mid lane. So maybe their next objective will be Elder Drake into the bottom tier 2. But either way, as we've been talking about, it's going to be the slow creeping force in from Afreeca, and it's going to be up to KSV to stop them from doing that.
Pretty low value Elder Dragon this game. Only 2 Drake Storms. We've seen 5 in multiple games as recently as 2 days ago. So we'll see how much of a contest there is from KSV. Keen walking up, but is spotted on a control ward. Story is still the same. Ornn will always be second to rotate because of the Banner of Command. The gold lead, 2,500 at 35 minutes, doesn't mean much, especially with how much gold is on Ruler. Going away from a standard build, no Bloodthirster. It's going to be a final item, Blade the Ruin King, just to have a hope in hell of being able to kill the Scion.
Definitely a lot of items invested into killing tanks here overall. There's going to be an engage, trying to get a Weaver's Wall in behind Ruler, but Kuro once again on the top side of that wall, taking a bit of poke damage from Crown, and now KSV says, okay, you used a bunch of stuff, let's try to engage. Nice interrupt there from Keen, and a re-engage from Tushin, but a double knock-up here from Cube. The Cataclysm comes in. So many knockups on both sides, but the damage from Kuro and from aiming on the bottom side is too much. They're going to take down Ambition. And Korja and Cube still very, very low. Crown, the one guy in the front, trying to go 1v4. Ruler not really getting close enough. Sonya's going to be popped.
Ruler can't auto anyone.
Yeah, look at Kuro just zone him out the entire time on that Taliyah. It's not the flashy play from the Taliyah, but it's the strong, consistent play that gets Ruler out of that wall.
And these are the fights I'm talking about where Ruler cannot auto anyone except for an Alistair and a Scion. Doesn't matter how much AD he has. He doesn't have any threat onto the remaining members of Afreeca. It may be a lower damage game for aiming, but a more viable one. They're pushing in for an inhibitor at 36 minutes.
Yeah, and you still got 35 seconds here on Crown. They're not going to get crazy with this one, as the Ornn ultimate cooldown is back up, even after that nerf, but a very nice play overall. It was a long, extended fight, but it was just the little things overall in that one. I'd love to take a look at the replay. No doubt we'll get one soon.
And every single analyst, every single armchair fan was going to be watching something different in the fight. I was largely trained on what Ruler can do, because Ruler is the decider. If they win or lose a fight, is based on how Ruler does with how much damage he does. So we're going to see the replay. Kuro, again, has to use his Zonias. That was actually an interesting looking Zonias there, but regardless, they regroup. And then from here, it's a KSV initiation. Interrupted by the Decimating Smash a second time. Keen has been on point with that. Look at Crown, though. He's the other threat here who needs to do damage. At the start, the tank threat comes through. The shields come through. The Crown can't do any threat. They're both focusing on Tushin. They eventually kill him. That's the only target that Crown and Ruler could auto or put spells on at the same time. And by the end, it's Crown all on his lonesome. Keen interrupts. So much space is controlled by the Scion in this fight that he can never actually focus fire again. The only person they could ever turn on was Tushin in a 40-second fight. And it was just team fighting there by Afreeca that put them over the edge.
I'd say 90% of that fight spent by Ruler and Crown was attacking the tanks, maybe even 100% of it. It was just trying to get away from all of the control in the fight. You know, it's not just the Scion, but it's also the Taliyah, the Alistar, even the Cataclysm from the Jarvan. Gets so much work done in zoning them out. We're going to have another Baron play here with the Weaver's Wall.
They know flashes are down. It's very difficult for multiple people to actually close the distance.
Okay.
Realm Warp just for zoning.
Yeah, not going to come through. It looks like they're going to give this one up. Just a nice play there from Afreeca, using their composition. The Taliyah plus Kalista makes Baron takes very easy.
That's why we will see more and more Taliyah. Feels like an 8-second stun at longest rank, because when you don't have the flash up, there's no way to move around it. All used there by Afreeca. Keen still zoning.
Yeah, look at that
Re-engage.
stun onto two people. It's way too much. The Scion becoming the MVP of this game very, very fast. Cuvée not able to do enough with his own Ornn ultimate. That's going to be 2 kills thanks to Keen. He just cleared 1 ward with the control ward, and then he lines them up and gets 2.
And if you roll in 1 by 1, it doesn't matter if you're Sejuani or you're Ornn, you will die to the focus fire of 5 members. Keen Scion finally showing us the way. Taliyah and Scion, the big new meta picks, both being wielded well by Afreeca, and they're looking for the close.
They make it look so strong, and they're going to go in here. Ruler, see you later. Not even in that fight. Crown all on his lonesome, trying to clear waves. He's got his Zonias. Looks laughable at this point, not able to do anything. Double kill over to Aiming, who eventually, with the help of his team, are going to pick up game number 1 for Afreeca.
And a really fun game to look at what happens when you have a free farm Tristana that you are baited into thinking will win the game. It does it in solo queue, it does it in other regions. Not if you play team fights so well with backline threat and an unkillable Scion. They were always on the front foot with the Scion, never allowed themselves to get super outscaled. And the Rise, unfortunately, could never free auto onto the same member. Tucson died gallantly time and time again, while the rest of the members of Afreeca were able to win with fights. That was a really good performance by the Afreeca Freecs. And KSV will feel hard done by, but the VOD review from that one, I think, will be beneficial for everyone. Fans, analysts, and the teams alike, because it was a close game, but when it came to the intangibles, the 1%ers, Afreeca were doing them in almost every fight, and KSV was struggling.
It's definitely Afreeca knowing the power in their composition and playing it near perfectly. It's something that they can look back on and say, well, this is why we're really good this season.
But so many teams in the LCK have known that Scion and Taliyah are good, but not been able to wield that power. Afreeca were able to do both at the same time, and it was a pleasure to watch because they really understood the ins and outs of their champions.
All smiles here on the side of Afreeca. They got to be feeling like gods after that one. It's just a weaker early game. Look at this play. The second the ward goes down, he lines it up, and that was just it. It's way too long of a stun, and when you have that much follow-up, even if you're the most tanky player in the world, you're going to die.
And Aiming and Kuro take no damage. Watch to see if Aiming even loses overheal just at the end because of the Ornn ultimate being registered. No threat means they can train down the front line, expertly baited by the side of Afreeca.
Yeah. Taliyah showing her strength when she's got other CC on her team. If you can lock down 1 or 2 members and get a seismic shove, you're going to be in the air for 3-4 seconds. It's pretty insane. But guys, the hype is real for game 1. We're going to take a short break before game number 2. We'll be back in a bit.